We are thrilled to be hosting acclaimed sports scientist and the forefather of polarised training, Dr. Stephen Seiler, on an upcoming 2-hour live stream event in July. On July the 18th, Dr. Seiler will present Sustainable Training for Attainable Endurance Goals. The 2-hour live stream will be broken down into 4 sessions. Session 1, Intensity Distribution for Long-Term Performance Development. Session 2, Interval Training, Research and Practical Applications. Session 3, Periodization and Peaking. Session 4, Training Monitoring to support the process. This live stream is ideal for coaches, athletes, health and medical professionals, fitness professionals, and students of the health, exercise, and sports sciences. Tickets are just $49 and include a workbook and a recorded copy of the live stream. To register, simply jump over to pogophysio.com.au/Dr. Seiler livestream.
And again, the other thing I've told myself on my Olympic appearances is I want to enjoy it. I've always told myself, I look back at why I started the sport, and that was because I wanted to race, and I love racing, I love the competitive side. I might only go to 2 Olympics, you never know. Hopefully I'll go to more, but that might be my last Olympics, and I want to enjoy that experience.
And now his brother comes into sight, and Alistair Brownlee takes Olympic gold, and his brother Jonny comes in behind him, and it's Great Britain gold and silver. And the brothers are on top of the podium once again.
Hi, it's Jonny Brownlee. I'm Olympic bronze and silver medalist, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. That's the voice of dual Olympic triathlon medalist Jonny Brownlee, reflecting on his London and Rio Olympic Games experiences. And boy, oh boy, are you in for a treat today on this episode 216, part 1 of a 2-part featured performer doubleheader. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. Of course, each week we'll bring you the latest and greatest information and inspiration designed to help you perform at your physical best. And we do this across a range of different episodes, interest editions, coaches' corners, expert editions, and featured performers. I've gotten to know Jonny Brownlee through my work as a physiotherapist for the Super League Triathlon Series. I've seen the effort, dedication, and professionalism that typifies Jonny's approach to his sport. But more than that, I've seen the jovial, well-liked, and generous side of Jonny's character, one that sees him stopping to sign autographs, take photos with fans, and modelling great sportsmanship in every way. I caught up with Jonny during the COVID-19 lockdown, where Jonny was training from his home in Yorkshire. By way of bio, Jonny Brownlee is the Olympic Games Triathlon Silver Medalist and the London Olympic Games 2012 Triathlon Bronze Medalist. Jonny was the World Triathlon Series Champion in 2012, Silver Medalist in the World Championship in 2013 and 2016, Commonwealth Games Silver Medalist in 2014, former Under-23 World Triathlon Champion in 2010, and staggeringly from July 2010 to May 2014, Jonny finished on a podium in every race he entered, which was 42 races in a row. Of course, Jonny is the younger brother of the Brownlee brothers. The brothers are not just triathlon history makers, but world sport history makers. In 2012, Jonny and his elder brother Alistair became the first brothers together on a podium for an individual sport at the Olympic Games since 1908. And then again in 2016, Jonny and Alistair became the first British brothers to ever win first and second in an individual event at the Olympic Games. and then again at the World Triathlon Series Grand Final in Cozumel in 2016, where in the most trying of conditions, the sports world witnessed one of the great sporting gestures of our time, when older brother Alistair stopped to help heat illness-stricken Jonny across the line, an act that some have said helped to restore faith in modern sport. Now, in this conversation, part one, you'll hear Jonny share around how Alistair's first Great British Triathlon kit inspired him into the sport, why Jonny's schoolmates thought that triathlon involved riding a horse. Jonny reflects on his London and Rio Olympic Games successes, outlines the importance of staying relaxed, and yes, we discuss the Cozumel heat illness episode and the learnings Jonny has taken from it. In part two of this interview, episode 217, we explore the many learnings from Jonny's career, including mindset, injury management of tendons and bones, strength and conditioning, running tips, performance round, and listener questions get answered. Oh, and listen out for the cameo from Jonny and his girlfriend Fee's furry little friend, Barney the Cavapoo. Here is my conversation, part one, with Jonny Brownlee. Jonny Brownlee, this really is quite a thrill for myself as a triathlon lover. And I mentioned before we press record that you certainly have been sitting on the must feature list for some time. So welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we find ourselves in quite uncharted territory as a world, really. And as an athlete who was looking to very soon be on the international stage again at most likely your third Olympic Games in triathlon, your world's kind of been turned upside down. So before we go too far, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's been a very, very strange couple of months. I'm sure it has been for everyone. Obviously, I should have been preparing for the Olympic Games in Tokyo now. We were actually on a altitude training camp in Santa Fe in New Mexico. And we flew out to America when this was kind of starting, and I never ever expected to get to the stage when people started getting locked down in their homes. So obviously we were in America and we got told by the British government it was probably a wise decision to come home. So we came home to your safety of your own home to this kind of world that I'm in now, which is a world that I genuinely thought I'd never ever live in. For the longest period of time I can ever remember my whole career, your swimming pools have been closed, running tracks have been closed, but more important than all that, obviously, people are staying away from each other. There's all that, the health aspects of it. So it's just a very, very strange world.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you've just celebrated your third decade, 30-year birthday, and I believe all the invitations are still sitting there waiting to be filled.
Yeah, so it's my 30th birthday about a week ago. And I'm not a big kind of birthday person, so I was actually quite pleased it was during lockdown because it gave me an excuse not to celebrate anything. I'm not much of a drinker or a party goer anyway, so it was actually quite good for me. It's just me and my girlfriend, and we went for a nice walk, and we got some nice cakes. Lots of people around my house bought me cakes and made cakes for me, so I think I ended up with about 4 cakes in the end. So it's a perfect birthday for me. We had a really, really, really nice day, and I couldn't have gone out for a drink if I wanted to. So it was absolutely perfect.
Look at that! It was all to benefit you, Jonny. Your girlfriend there, Fee, who's herself a physiotherapist. I believe that she's been pretty much on the front line there in the NHS.
She started her full-time physio job a few months ago, and she's actually on the Corona ward in the local hospital now, because obviously, when all this started, it all changed to hands on deck. So she has gone from being a MSK physio in the hospital to now literally on the Corona ward, and that has involved anything from serving dinners to clean away bodies. And I'm incredibly proud of her. I'm not sure I could do that. And it's one of the great things about the Corona, if you like, is that how people have all come together and helping each other. It's been a massive learning curve for her. She went into physiotherapy to obviously look after people's bodies, not to work on a Corona ward, but she's doing me proud and fair play.
Jonny, there's so many places we could go. We theme this show the highs, the lows, the learn-ins, with a real emphasis on learn-ins that we can extract from a world-class performer like yourself. But in terms of the beginnings for you, I've heard you say that one of the most cataclysmic moments for you was when your older brother, Alistair, came home with his first Great British kit, and you were like, wow, he's good at this, maybe I could be too. It made quite an impression on you.
Yeah, well, triathlon's obviously been part of my life now for as long as I can remember. I started as a swimmer. My mum used to swim. Can I just go and shut Barney up? Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Barney won't show.
I think Barney should make an appearance.
All day. What's wrong with you? Barney, come here. Sorry.
You're all right, mate.
Here he is. He'll settle down now. Now he's in the room. He was. I think he doesn't like the postmen coming or anything like that. So sorry.
Jonny, I recall hearing you mention that one of the real impressionable moments in your journey as a triathlete was when your elder brother Alistair came home with his first great British kit, and it made quite an impression on you. Yeah,
well, triathlon's been an important part of my life for a long, long time now. Since I was about 6 years old, my mum used to swim. It's quite a high level, not international level or anything, but she used to love it. My dad used to run, and then my uncle did a triathlon at the time when in the UK triathlon was a very, very small sport. No one really knew what it was. So I took part in one, and I'm quite an underconfident person, so I never would have thought that I could have competed at a high level, that I could have competed for Great Britain. So a big, big moment for me was when Alistair was 14 and I was about 12. Alistair qualified for Great Britain for the first time. I can still picture it now. His Great Britain kit came through the post, and I remember getting his bag and put it on the kitchen table. And then I was thinking, wow, if my brother can go there, I can race for Great Britain, I can do that as well. And the same kind of idea carried on. Alistair and myself actually both qualified to race the World Junior Championships in Lausanne in 2006. Alistair won the World Juniors. I actually crashed in the first corner, but we'll forget about that bit. I remember walking back with my bike, because it was a long way from where I crashed back to the finition, with a bike on my shoulder, just as Alistair crossed the finish line and became World Junior Champion. And I remember stood there, everyone watching him, no one look at me, thinking, wow, if a brother can become World Junior Champion, I can do it as well, even though I'd crashed in the first corner and it all gone wrong. And then also, again, another big moment was in Beijing in 2008. I actually went out to watch Alistair in the Olympics, and it was incredible to be there in Beijing. It was a strange venue, a strange course. And I remember thinking, here I am, sat down watching my brother. He's not very competitive, but it's Olympics. There's far better athletes out there than Alistair. And I was there, and we were about 5K in the run. I was sat there thinking, he's leading. This is not really meant to happen. My brother's not meant to win the Olympics, because Olympians are meant to be these special people that I watch on TV and you never really come across. They train in special places, and I was actually a bit disappointed by the whole thing, because I thought, well, Olympians actually aren't that special anymore, because my brother was competing with them. So again, that's another really big moment for me, because it taught me that I could, if he could do it. And I saw Alistair how he trained. I saw how he occasionally ate fish and chips. But he still put in all the hard graft. And if he could do that, then I could do that as well. So I think seeing Alistair do things first has been absolutely massive for me.
It's so interesting to hear you say, Jonny, that you are an underconfident person.
Yeah, I think I am. I kind of always have been. I like to not show that impossible around races, and people said that I obviously I can appear confident during races, but I think I am quite underconfident. I definitely wouldn't have reached the high levels I have reached if Alistair hadn't done it first, because I wouldn't have thought that I could have done it either. So I think it's just me. I'm a very rational person. I like to think things through the whole time. Lots of what ifs and that kind of thing. So I think it's just a way that I always have been.
Yeah, wow. Well, I want to hear about the what ifs. Jonny, I did laugh when I heard you cite that when you mentioned to your mates you were going to pick up the sport of triathlon, that they asked if that involved riding a horse.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I started triathlon, when I was 6 years old, I told my mates I'm going to go do a triathlon at the weekend. They were like, does that involve shooting and riding a horse? I'm like, no, that's a different sport. And they're like, then explain to them what triathlon is, and they're like, well, it's a bit strange sport. But it's changed absolutely massively now. London 2012 was obviously a big moment for the sport. And now triathlon's a far, far bigger sport than it was back then. A lot of people have done a triathlon now, or they know someone who's done a triathlon. So it has changed completely from when I first started, definitely.
In 2005, London was announced as the Olympic Games city for 2012. At that stage, how old were you then, Jonny? And what can you remember that moment? Like, you couldn't perceive or believe what that would mean for you as a person. 2012, the London Olympic Games. Yeah,
well, I was 15 in 2005, and I do actually remember the time when it got announced. And I was at school, and I had a French friend at school, and I think London were battling against Paris for the Olympics. And I remember my reaction was, we won, London won, kind of thing. And I never, ever in a million years thought that I would be on the start line in London then. Obviously, when you're 15 years old, I hadn't even, I'd raced the European Youth Relay Championships for Great Britain probably by then, but I'd not raced internationally, not raced a senior race. And I genuinely didn't think I had any chance of going to the London 2012 Olympics until a big race for me was the London race in 2010, which is most notable for Alistair collapsing near the finish line, and then I came second in the end, but I would have been third if Alistair had held together. And that's when I thought, well, if I can compete on an Olympic venue and get second place, then maybe I can go to the Olympics. So it really wasn't until 2010 that I thought I had any chance at being there.
And 2 years passed, and there you were on the start line. And I've heard you mention that you can talk about it even now, and you can still get goosebumps.
Capping off a wonderful day for Great Britain, and an especially proud moment for the Brownlee family. Here comes Jonny. Penalty or no penalty, he's still going to be there getting a medal today, coming home in third place.
As a lover of triathlon, I've only ever had two career paths in mind, triathlon or physio, and I recall watching the London men's race in particular and feeling a sense of pride. Yeah, there you go. That's shown the world what triathlon's really about. The spectators, the speed at which you guys race, the intensity, it was just like the dream day for the sport.
Yeah, well, I could talk about London 2012 that day for the next 2 hours, really. It was my first Olympic Games. It was unbelievable. Obviously, it was a high pressurised situation. For us, we'd been around countdown days of 500 days to go, 100 days to go. My local swimming pool had a countdown clock. Every time I went out of my house, someone would ask me. I couldn't go to the shops without the local people asking me, good luck, how you fit, are you training well? So it was around us everywhere, which made it really exciting. And we tried to keep it as normal as possible. We went on our usual holding camp to St. Moritz for 5 weeks altitude training. We had some great training partners up there, obviously Stu Hayes, Varga, some running partners, and we kept it as normal and as fun as we possibly could. We came down and then spent 2 weeks at home, just getting some good training in. There was a strange 2 weeks at home because the Olympics had kind of just started then. The opening ceremony itself, we were actually at home. And we had a fish and chip party at home. So we got our friends round and a few neighbours and had a fish and chip party. We got dressed in our opening ceremony outfit because the triathlon was about 10 days into the Olympics. So we didn't want to go down to London and be there for too long or come back up and add another travel day in. So we stayed at home. And we actually only went down to the venue on the Saturday. And our race was a Tuesday, so we caught the normal train down to London. We stayed in the same hotel that I'd stayed in the year before just to test it all out. So my first reaction for the Olympics was, it was a bit weird, it was a bit rubbish really, because it's just what I'd always done before. I'd been on that train 100 times before. I'd been in that hotel a few times before. And then as the days went by, obviously, you start to build up, and it didn't really hit me until the morning itself. And we left our hotel. We went across Hyde Park just as a group of us. Again, there was not a lot of crowd at this point because we went in a kind of strange way. And then we went to warm up on the course, and I remember me, Alistair, myself, just going on the course for the first time and hearing the noise and just thinking, we can't mess this up. Just don't mess this up. That was my first reaction. And it was an unbelievable day. I remember, like you just said, I was so proud for the sport. I was so proud that we could get 500,000 or 1 million people, whatever it was there. Every single tree, bench, space of Hyde Park was full of people. And I remember racing around and picking up certain teachers' voices out the crowd. It's amazing that teachers' voices can still stand out now, whatever it was, 10 years later. So I remember running around and picking out a games teacher's voice, a French teacher's voice who'd come down to watch me. And I think I've been told some incredible stories of people going down to watch who spent 5 hours in trees to get a good vantage point. It's just absolutely amazing. It's an amazing day for sport. And then obviously to get gold and bronze capped it all off.
Oh, wow. So you could actually pick out your teachers' voices amongst, it looked like in places it was 40, 50 people deep. It was just a sea of people. Was that on the run or the bike? You could hear your teachers, or both?
The bike was impossible to hear anything. That's actually one of the hard things. I got my penalty and I found out on lap 2, I think it was. And I was trying to talk to Alistair about what the tactics were. And one of the problems was it was so loud, I could shout as loud as I wanted next to Alistair, and he couldn't hear anything. And there's a small section of the course where there was a bridge, and it was a weak bridge, so spectators weren't allowed to stand on it. And that's the only point that we could communicate anything. So I would shout to him, to Alistair, and they'd be like, I'll see you in 5K. Back round we went, and then we'd finish our conversation. So it was just an unbelievable day, and I'm not sure we'll ever have a triathlon that well supported ever again, but it was a very proud moment for our sport, definitely.
And Jonny, I actually didn't realise that when you crossed in third, and as you mentioned there was the penalty for the early mounting of the bike, which, I mean, as you said, you weren't aware of that until a few laps into the bike. Is that right?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it at all because obviously there's so much going on, and I'd never got a penalty before. And I like to think I'm quite organised like that. Normally you get a penalty for putting your goggles outside the box in T1 or something like that, and I'd done that all perfectly, so I wasn't really sure why I got a penalty. But yeah, I wasn't aware until about 2 laps in.
How did you keep your head together? I mean, there must have been a moment of almost terror, like, oh gosh, or was there not? Were you just like, oh, well, I'll just deal with it?
Yeah, well, the first moment of, oh no, what have I done? If I lose an Olympic medal because of that, I'd be so upset. And then I actually thought, in a way, it simplified it, because all I had to do then was go out and run hard. There's no other option there. There was no tactics as much involved, and all I could do is go out and run hard and make sure I was 15 seconds faster than the 4th place at least. And in the end, on the run, we were quite fortunate, or lucky if you like, that it got down to 3 of us quite quickly. And I actually watched it back for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't actually know the time splits at all until about 2 weeks ago when I was watching the run. Because someone tweeted me saying that they'd watched it during this lockdown period on the turbo. So I watched it for the first time, and it wasn't actually a bit closer than I thought once it came out of the penalty box. But yeah, like I said, I think we were very fortunate that we got away 3 of us quite quickly. And then it meant the 15 seconds didn't really mean anything.
And you meant it was closer to 4th place, David Haas from France, than you thought?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I actually thought it was a bit further than that, but in the end, by the time I came out of the penalty box, I think I only had 10 or 12 seconds.
And then you nearly tripped coming out of that penalty box.
Yeah, I think I was so excited just to leave that penalty box that I nearly fell over. No, I had really, really tired legs going in there. I think it's still one of the fastest 10Ks I've ever been run. People have quoted me the splits and stuff of what we actually ran. But we went out really hard and probably didn't pace it very well. I've heard we went through 5K in about 14:07 or something, I heard. And then, so I probably didn't pace it very well. So by that point, I was probably a bit tired.
Well, I think from memory, your final, Alistair was 29.07 and you were maybe 20 seconds back. And that first 2.5K loop was 7 minutes.
Yeah, it was something like that. We went out really, really hard. I think, we were all really, really fit. My training had gone absolutely perfectly up to that point. Alistair obviously had his Achilles problem back in January, but recovered from that, and everything had gone well since then. And obviously Javier, isn't he? Javier Gomez, he's absolutely incredible athlete, and he'd managed to up his game for that as well.
Yeah, wow. And I didn't realise that you spent time, once you finished, you were taken away for an hour and a half, and the podium ceremony couldn't take place because you were getting treatment for what? Just absolute exhaustion or dehydration or what?
Yeah, well, I kind of have this strange thing occasionally after races when I go really hard, that I cross the finish line and then I'm fine for about 10 minutes, and then I don't know if my blood sugar drops or my body carries on overheating, but because I've stopped, I'm not cooling down or something. I've never been able to explain it. I probably should talk to a doctor about it, but quite often I cross finish line, 10 minutes later I start doing interviews and I just start feeling awful and really faint. And I was doing an interview at the time, actually, and I was like, excuse me, I'm going to have to lay down. And then I laid down, and then I didn't recover. I got worse and worse. And then you obviously go to the medical tent, and all I could hear in this medical tent were the crowd outside shouting and cheering. And I was like, oh, no, I'm letting everyone down here. I'm letting the crowd down. I'm letting Alistair and Javier down. This is what these guys have dreamt about the whole career. He's been on that podium, and now they're having to wait for me. And I remember saying to the doctor, I'm fine, I can come on and get back up, stood up, and then, oh no, I'm going to have to lay back down again. And the doctor said, no, take your time, it's all right. And about an hour later, I came out, and Alistair was not happy. He just said to me, where have you been? Come on, you've delayed this long enough now, let's get on with it. And actually, being on that podium, I didn't feel great. I felt a bit rough still, and I wanted to get off the podium. And it's a shame that, it's a big regret of mine, because you should really want to cherish your moments, but I was on the podium going, I think I'm going to collapse here, get me off this podium as quick as possible. But I recover fine. I think it's just a blood sugar thing or a blood pressure thing.
Wow, and you also had the pressure from Alistair saying to you, don't cry, we're from Yorkshire, we don't cry.
Yeah, I had that from Alistair as well. It's one of those things, the Olympics, your podium, where you never really prepare for it. You never think about being on that podium. And I didn't know how I would react on that podium. So, you go up, you get called up, and you just think, wow, I've achieved something I've always wanted to achieve. And you look through sport and history, and people have cried on the podium, people have jumped and celebrated on the podium, and you're like, well, what do I do? No one's told me what to do. So Alistair said, don't cry, we're from Yorkshire. So that made me laugh and probably stopped me crying. I didn't cry, and got off the podium, did some more interviews like you do, and because at the Home Olympics, obviously, then you do lots of interviews. Went to BBC, do all the usual stuff in the studio, and then probably got home about 5 hours later for a burger and chips.
A burger and chips. 2012 ended up being a great year for you. You then went on and won the grand final in the world title in Auckland, New Zealand. But life must have really changed for you after that, from a fairly anonymous athlete to really a UK based superstar.
Yeah, life did change a lot. Well, yes and no. Obviously, no, because the endurance side of training, you still got to put the training in. And I remember coming back to the Olympics itself. So the triathlon was on Tuesday, the closing ceremony was on Sunday. That whole week, you could basically do whatever you wanted in London because you were Olympic medalists, where that involved going to watch Bolt run or go to a nightclub. If you showed that Olympic medal, it was a ticket into anything. And then we flew home on a helicopter. Actually, some local company allowed us to fly home on a helicopter. So came back to Bramhope. And then I remember getting off the helicopter and going, I just want to go for a run in my local forest, which I did. And then the next morning, I went swimming at the swimming pool. And again, my swimming coach at the time, Jack, just said, right, there's a session, get on with it. And the same people were in the pool, still wanted to beat me, the same. That hadn't changed. And I think that was actually really, really important for me. It was like, right, you're an Olympic medalist, is what it is. But at the end of the day, you're still a triathlete and get on with it. But yes, the other side of it did change. Then you get invited on some amazing things. We went on TV programs, Superstars and that kind of thing. You get invited to all sorts of wonderful meals, meet some incredible people. some awesome athletes, like Mo Farah and people like that. And then you get recognised wherever you go. You suddenly can't go out your house without someone cheering you on, or you can't cross the road without someone saying something. So it did change in that way. But like I say, the sport keeps you grounded, definitely.
Rio 2016, still on this, I guess, theme of highs, career highs. I've heard you reference that you went into that in great shape, and you truly believe that you could come out Olympic champion.
Yeah, Rio 2016 was obviously, I guess my kind of prime, if you like. The 2015 year, I had my best race ever on the Gold Coast. I still think it is my best triathlon I've ever done, where we got away in a small pack on a bike, and then I had one of the fastest runs anyway. And I got injured, but anyway, but into Rio, my training had gone really well beforehand. We've done our usual tried and tested setup before Olympic Games, which was to go to altitude in St. Moritz for 5 weeks. We added a little bit of heat training into that this time because we knew Rio was going to be hot. Go back, and then we would normally go back home if it was London, but we went to Brazil for 2 weeks before, just get over the travel, get used to the heat a little bit. And then I was on the start line in Rio in great shape. I'd done my best track session I've ever done 10 days before that race. I'd actually beaten Alistair in a track session. He didn't enjoy that, but I beat him. So I was on that start line going, right, I'm ready for this race. My swimming's really good. I'm ready for the surf if it's wavy. We practiced on the Gold Coast on the surf beforehand. I'm ready for the hard hill. We practiced for that. We trained for going out transition after swim really, really hard up that hill. And I'm ready if it comes down to a run, because my running's in the best shape it's ever been. So bring it on. And that's what you want when you're on the Olympic start line. You want to be there going, I've covered all bases, whether it's hot, cold, wavy, flat, hilly, flat. I can cover everything. I was in brilliant shape. On the day itself, I actually think I raced well. I swam well. I dragged Alistair around the swim. And if anything, I actually think I biked probably too hard. I was in really good biking shape, and we pushed the bike really, really hard. And maybe I did a bit more than my fair share of work, which meant going on to the run. It was a perfect scenario for us. We'd got a small break out the swim, pushed up the bike, tied everyone's legs out on the bike, and got it down to select few of us. And we started running, and then obviously it got down to Alistair and myself pretty quickly. And after about 5k, it was obvious it was between Alistair and myself. And I just said, Alistair, just relax now, relax. Let's just get through 5k, relax. And he took that I took that as saying to him, we're in this together, we're racing together. He took that as Johnny's suffering, so I'm going to drop him. He probably saw that just me showing a sign of weakness. So he pushed on and then distanced himself, and then obviously ran for the gold medal, and I ran for silver. So I guess if I could do that race again, there'd be a couple of things I'd do differently, which is probably be a little bit smarter on the bike and then not show any weakness to Alistair.
I mean, you jumped up one place from London with the bronze. You picked up silver. It was like history repeating, because it was. And I mean, what was the first bit of conversation you guys shared after that? We did it, or can you believe it, or just like job done, relief?
I said to Alistair, we've done it. Because I think, although we hadn't talked about it, and we would never talk about these kind of things, our aim has always been, obviously it's the pinnacle of our sport, to get a gold and silver at the Olympic Games. And I just said that, those simple 3 words. And we have done it. It can't get any better than that. Obviously, you can't both get gold. So that's what I said. And we've gone through it all together. And I think one of the amazing things about the both of us is we have gone through being, kids training together to the Olympic holding camp together. And we've literally lived with each other before that race, done everything together for the last 6 months. So to achieve it together was absolutely amazing. And to achieve it in that way together as well, the fact that we'd been on a start line together next to each other, then we'd work together on the bike perfectly, and then we'd work together on the run, well, at least for 5k, was amazing. We've done it as a real team.
Yeah, I watched both races back in preparing for this, and one of the things that stuck out was just how, from the outside looking in, relaxed yourself and Alistair were on the start line. So in both London and Rio, obviously inside there's all sorts of things going on, the heart's pumping, etc. But you both smiled at the camera and you look like, right, let's go for it, rather than like wanting to vomit in the corner because of nerves.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a little bit of a show, I think, looking relaxed. I don't really know I don't ever try and think about that. It's what it is. And I've always told myself that all I can do is try my best on that day. I've been very, very fortunate. I've gone to 2 Olympic Games in perfect shape. My training had gone absolutely perfect beforehand. So I've been stood on the start line going, well, right, I'm in great shape. If someone beats me today, then fair play. There's nothing else I could do because I've trained as hard as I can. And that's very, very important. And we also try and keep it relaxed. London itself, obviously the build-up is massive, and we were in the core room, and Varga, I remember Varga standing on this plastic box. We get these plastic boxes where we put our kit in, and I think Varga stood on it, and it splintered into a load of pieces, and he went flying, and I just started laughing, and that kind of made it all very calm there. The fact that just one of my training mates had done something stupid, and it chilled us out. And in Rio, I think we were there going, yeah, like I say, we're fit, and let's try and enjoy this. And again, the other thing I've told myself on my Olympic appearances is I want to enjoy it. I've always told myself, I look back at why I started the sport, and that was because I wanted to race, and I love racing, I love the competitive side. And I might only go to 2 Olympics, you never know. Hopefully I'll go to more. But that might be my last Olympics, and I want to enjoy that experience because I want to be able to look back on that experience when I'm an old man and say, wow, that day was incredible. I genuinely enjoyed that day. And in London, I can genuinely say that. I can say that on the start line and the whole day, obviously there's nerves, but I genuinely enjoyed it, and I wanted to have that. In Rio, again, I enjoyed the day. I enjoyed the whole experience. Obviously, that 5 minutes before, when the heartbeat starts and the music starts, it is nerve-wracking, but throughout most of the day, I found it fun.
And did you? How was the podium experience in Rio? Had you learnt from London?
Yeah, I had learnt from London, and after finish line, I cooled myself down a lot quicker, and then we were straight on the podium. And the podium, I could enjoy it. It was absolutely amazing. Again, a great setting for a triathlon, obviously, with the beach behind and the sun out, and it was another special day. And then after the podium, again, you go off to do all the amazing things that you get told to do.
You're listening to dual Olympic Games medalist and 2012 World Triathlon Series Champion Jonny Brownlee sharing on his career highs, lows and learnings. Support for today's show comes from Kinesis Sunscreen. Kinesis is a range of sports performance sunscreens for your active lifestyle. Everything about the Kinesis sunscreen range, from the ergonomic bottle to the ingredients they include and leave out of the formulations, have been developed specifically for athletes. It's different to any sunscreen you've tried, and so light you won't feel like you're wearing it. Kinesis sunscreen is super easy to apply, won't affect your grip or sting your eyes. Kinesis can be bought through select retail partners in Canada, the USA and Australia, or online through their regional websites. Search Kinesis Active, that's KINESYS Active, online. They've offered 20% off for the Physical Performance Show listeners across the full range of spray and natural zinc sunscreens. Simply use the coupon code POGO on your regional website. Enjoy staying active while staying sun protected with Kinesis Sunscreen. Support for today's show also comes from Pogo Physio's online physiotherapy consultations. If you are a runner or triathlete looking to get back to your physical best following injury, then jump over to pogophysio.com.au/telehealth to find out about our very popular online physiotherapy consultation offerings. But for now, let's jump back with this week's featured performer, dual Olympic Games medalist and former World Triathlon Series champion, Jonny Brownlee. Jonny, I must ask, going into Rio, as you mentioned, the team had prepared, the British team had prepared with great intent, surf training in Australia, here on the Gold Coast, amongst so many other things, heat work, etc. I was actually on the Gold Coast watching one of the World Series races in, I believe it might have been April in 2016, and on a far turnaround at the Witches Hat with about 2.5K to go back to the finish line, you went around and then you started to, stumble a bit and have an episode of sort of the heat illness. And then that day didn't fare well for you. You lost a few places in that final couple of Ks. I think you finished third, and that was probably, from my recollection, your first episode of suffering from heat. Is that the right assessment of it?
Yeah, exactly. That is my first episode of suffering from heat. So that was Olympic year, obviously April 2016. I'd gone into that race really, really fit, and the first mistake that I made was we did a real big session on the Thursday before, so only like 9 days before. I'd done a really, really good bike to run session where I was absolutely flying, and I think I'd put myself into kind of a bit of a hole then already before the race actually started. And then the race itself, a couple of days before, I had a strange migraine. I'm not sure if I'd drunk enough or I got my salts right, but I remember waking up and then my head hurt, and that was a kind of bit of a warning sign. And then the actual race day itself, I remember the Gold Coast is not normally super, super hot in April time. It can be either way, as I'm sure you know better than me. But it hadn't been that hot up to that point, and we woke up on race morning, and I remember going outside and out of accommodation and thinking, this is pretty hot now. And I said to Alistair, I said to him, whatever you do, don't get heat exhaustion. Whatever you do, we don't want to make it harder for Rio in a few months' time, because you don't want to have that and then have to recover from it and then have that in the back of your mind. So I said to Alistair, whatever you do, don't get heat exhaustion. It comes to that point, just back it off. We'll be fine. We'll get on the plane to South Africa to race in the next race, and we'll be fine. Anyway, I was racing really, really well against Mario, and I remember on the third lap thinking, right, I'm going to attack him up this hill. I tried, he stayed with me, and then on the fourth lap, only with a couple of K to go, I started to think, oh, my body's starting to feel a bit weird here. And then I can't remember any of the final few minutes. I actually think my heat exhaustion in Gold Coast was worse than Cozumel. And there's a whole good 10 minutes of my whole life that I can't remember there. I can't remember finishing. Apparently I was put in a paddling pool at the end of the race, and it was only a couple of years ago that Alistair brought it up, actually, because we were talking about something else, and he said, you're in that paddling pool, and I said, I can't remember anything about that. So that was really, really tough, and it's not ideal to have that before Rio, and I actually took quite a lot of getting over. I was really nervous about getting my heat preparation right before Rio. I didn't really do much heat preparation before Gold Coast, so I knew that was my mistake as well. But into Rio, I knew that I had to get it right. And I had a few chats with my coaches. Ben Bright was really, really good. Before Rio, Ben Bright, who's the British head coach, said to me actually the night before, you are good in the heat, Jonny. Don't worry about it. You are good. You've done the preparation. If anything is still held over from what happened in Gold Coast, just forget about it. You've done the preparation. You're ready. You're more ready than anyone on the start line. And trust me, and don't be scared, because I think at that point they were really a bit worried that I would have been scared from what happened in April. But in the end, I wasn't. It actually didn't really play in my mind that much because I knew I'd done the preparation. So I was on the start line in Rio, very prepared for that and ready for the heat. Cozumel, again, I guess we might as well talk about it now. Get it out of the way because it leads in perfectly. I think for me that was the end of a long, long year. And what happens in a World Series sometimes is because we race in all different climates around the world, and because of nature it's a World Series, it's hard to be prepared for them all. So in Rio, the Olympic Games, I'm perfectly prepared. Then when you become an Olympic medalist, you take your foot off the gas a little bit because you've got to do the commercial things you have to do. And then I went and raced in Edmonton. It was actually three weeks before Cozumel. And if I wanted to become world champion, I had to do Edmonton and Cozumel. So I did Edmonton, and it was actually about 6 degrees. And we went from people being unable to take their helmets off because their hands were so cold, people putting on jackets and gloves on the bike, to 3 weeks later racing in Cozumel. So I think I didn't really prepare well enough in between those two races to get ready for the heat. And if I learn anything now, I think I can race well in the heat, but I have to be prepared. I can't take any shortcuts on that. And the two times that I have taken shortcuts has been Gold Coast and Cozumel, and it has gone wrong. So I've learned from that. And
the preparing for Rio, because that was what I was so interested in. How did you psychologically prepare for the rigors of Rio? Was there was that fear hanging around? But what sort of heat adaptation work were you guys doing? Well, for Rio, we knew it would likely be hot, but probably not Tokyo hot, and we knew it'd be dry heat. And we thought we wanted to keep that intense
effort in there and keep our normal schedule going to St Moritz and then going to a training base beforehand, which is similar conditions to where you're racing. So when we're in St Moritz, we do quite a lot of sauna work, which is the kind of the fashion now. Because the advantage of the sauna work is, for example, I would do my hard track session like normal. I would get my body heat up. I'd put a warm jacket on and trousers, warm down to keep my body temperature up, and then go and sit in a sauna for 45 minutes afterwards. Because the advantage of that is you can still get your intense training done, and then you can go into the sauna and get your heat adaptation in as well. So that's what we did in that period when we were in St Moritz, as much as we could. And it sounds lovely sat in a sauna, but it really, really is not. And St Moritz was this real posh, exclusive spa where they were doing like sauna shows and people were going there for an experience. And we were in the corner going, please just leave us alone. Please don't talk to me. How long's left? And time just stands still. But that actually worked really well because it allowed us, like I said, to keep intensity but get the heat adaptation. And then we also went on a training base, which is a flight outside Rio for about 2 weeks before. And it wasn't actually that hot on our training camp, unfortunately, just because of the way it fell. So we actually wanted it to be a bit hotter, but it just the way it was. But we prepared enough with that sauna work to cope for the Rio conditions. I think Tokyo will be different. I think you need a bit more of a better heat protocol to get ready for that.
And I mean, Cozumel was like 90% humidity, if I recall correctly. It was just hot and humid.
Cozumel was the most brutal conditions that I've ever experienced in my life.
He's losing his sense of direction. This is worrying. Oh, goodness me. This is a horrible sight. Jonathan Brownlee has lost it now and has staggered to a stop at the side of the course. And Alistair's stopped to help him along. And Alistair is going to try and carry his brother home. Dramatic scenes in Cozumel as the Olympic champion carries his younger brother towards the podium. Unbelievable scenes. Unbelievable scenes in Cozumel. The Brownlee brothers arm in arm, but it's not by way of celebration. Henry Schoeman's celebrating. He's going to win this race in Cozumel out of nowhere, but we have to be concerned about the health of Jonathan Brownlee. Schoeman wins in Cozumel. The brothers are coming home arm in arm to finish in second and third, but Jonny can hardly stand, and Alistair is having to drag him across the line and pushing him home for second. Jonny finishes in second. Goodness me, what an incredible conclusion here in Cozumel. I've never seen anything like that anywhere in world sport.
Yeah, I remember arriving at the island thinking this island is amazing for a holiday, but probably not for a race. Swimming with dolphins, beforehand. I didn't even swim in the pool for a few days before because I was like, it's the end of a long year. I'm just going to swim next to these dolphins and enjoy the whole island experience. But at the same time, this race is going to be really, really hard. And the swim, you started in the sea and then you went into like the port bit, and it was literally like swimming in a bath. If you dive into your local swimming pool now, you'd get out thinking that's too hot, I can't swim in there. And then the bike again, it was hot, hard, and my first warning signs in that race was when I started to feel a bit cold on the run, about 3K into the run. And as someone who's done a bit of reading about heat exhaustion, feeling cold's never good. So I started to think I'm in a bit of trouble there. But then I was like an athlete, you spend your life lying to yourself. You spend your life lying to yourself about, you're going to ease off after this rep, you're going to ease off at that corner. So I just lied to myself and continued to push myself. And what happened. But yeah, Cozumel was probably the hottest conditions I've ever raced in, definitely.
Yeah, wow. And there was a bit of memory loss, was there, after that? I mean, you said you lost 10 minutes of your life after the Gold Coast heat incident, and you must have lost a little bit of time after Cozumel as well. It was a bit of a whirlwind. Yeah,
after Cozumel, I think there's less memory loss, but I'm not quite sure if that's because I've been made to watch it back so many times, different talks and schools and events that I've done, that I've kind of, some of it I've seen through that. So there is definitely memory loss. I just remember, I've only really got a few, and that's one is my legs kind of going and then running into the barrier. My second one is Alistair grabbing me, and then my first reaction was just leave me, please just leave me. And then I remember Alistair throwing me, and then thinking at the time that was a bit harsh. And then I can't remember anything until waking up in the hospital bed. But at that race, I was very, very well looked after. They were obviously prepared for that. There was junior races, under 23 races, and senior races, and I was one of the last ones. And I'd seen the races before, and it was like a death match, and they were very well prepared for that. So I was well looked after. And I guess I'll talk about the after experience a little bit, which is probably one of the most strangest experiences of my life, which is obviously it all happened. I was on a hospital bed, went to hospital, didn't go on the podium this time. Was in a hospital bed, came round eventually a few hours later. Went back to the hotel room. It was the end of the year. Everyone else had gone out partying or doing whatever they wanted to do. It was Richard Varga's kind of stag do as well. So a few of them had gone out on that. And so I balled to the hotel thinking, they'll all be there looking after me. No, they'd all gone out. I was right, I'll go and try and get a bit of sleep. I tried to get a bit of sleep, woke up really hungry. Was like, well, I'm going to get some room service. Had to sort out a bit of room service, started eating. And at this point, I turned my phone on. And I turned my phone on it just crashed. And I was like, okay, don't know what happened there. Maybe it's got hot like I got hot as well. And then the first thing I saw was tweets started coming through from J.K. Rowling and Gordon Ramsay, and I remember just seeing these on the notifications bit and thinking, okay, this is a bit weird. And the next one with my manager had said, can you call in the morning? This news channel want to talk to you. This news channel want to talk to you. And thinking, okay, this has got a bit bigger than I thought it was. At the time, I was really, really embarrassed because I'd lost the World Championships that I thought by tactically not being very clever. And I would have thought that if I'd won that race, obviously I'd be world champion. It would have capped off with a brilliant year. I'd have finished that year really, really high and gone home and gone perfect. So the next day was kind of people were staying on the island to have a bit of fun. I just couldn't move. I felt really, really sick all that day. And I was just getting media requests through. Can you fly to America, go on the James Corden show? Can you do this? And at that time, I'd agreed to do this dinner in London. So like when I go home and do that, we'll kind of come back, we'll regroup and then find out what happened. And then go from there. And I actually flew back on a separate flight to everyone else. And I walked onto the flight wanting to get upgraded from economy to business class. And I've been recognised by this point everywhere on the island. Everyone had said, well done. I walked onto this flight going, here I am, upgrade me, please. No one recognised me, straight to the back of the plane. And then I think I flew for America and I was sat down having a bit of food and a TV screen came on with the Cozumel, getting replayed, thinking, okay, this has gone pretty big now. I'm in an American airport eating a bit of lunch and I'm on the screen. So I just kept my head down and thought, okay, just keep your head down. Got back home and then again, the next few weeks for an absolute whirlwind of doing media interviews and everything like that. But at the same time, like I said before, it was a time for me to be slightly embarrassed by the whole thing because firstly, I can't remember it. Secondly, I didn't think I did that much apart from get carried across the finish line and lose the World Championships. But I kept telling myself it is a good thing for our sport and hopefully it's increased the profile of our sport. And even now, in lockdown, I have a load of videos of little kids you're doing that sort of thing again, replicating it, and you're picking up the brother and carrying him down the garden or something. And even now, I get asked all the time, which one are you? The one who clapped or the one who carried you? So it's something that definitely people like to talk about. But like I said, for me, it was a strange few days.
But in processing it now, Jonny, you've I'm sure, as you say, you've shifted from embarrassment to, recognising what a symbolic gesture it really is just for world sport and siblingship in general.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it makes you proud to have a brother like Alistair who's prepared to put competition to one side and think about health and looking after your brother. And I think it says a lot. He could have won that race. He could have earned that money. He could have, whatever, got that fame from the grand final. But instead, he chose to to help me out. And I think it shows. And in times even like now, it's important to show that there are things more important than competition. There are times when we do compete, and competition is obviously really, really important. But there's also times when we need to come together and help each other. And that was one of those times that Alistair chose helping me over everything. So, thank you very much to him. Don't like saying that too much, but thank you.
It really transcended sport. And I've heard you say, Jonny, which I think is a real credit to the character you are, that at no point through your career have you ever been jealous of Alistair's success.
No, there's no point in my career I haven't ever been jealous, and I think that's something that I'm very, very proud of. I've obviously seen Alistair achieve amazing things, and my 2 Olympic Games are a good example. There was never one bit of me that was there going, I'm jealous of him winning that. I don't know if that's because I see how much hard work he puts in. So I can really, really appreciate that. I know all athletes put hard work in, but I'd seen what he'd gone through in those years to get himself to that shape. I'd seen what I'd gone through and how hard I tried, and I got beaten by the better person on the day, and there's no more than that. And there's absolutely no jealousy whatsoever. I see the advantages for me of having Alistair there, definitely. They're massive, the advantages of day in, day out, to have someone to train with. As a young kid, to have someone to look up to see well, I can achieve that as well. So there's absolutely no jealousy whatsoever.
And I think it's beautiful to hear that. And also you guys kind of transcended the sport. Like, you could ask people who prior weren't familiar with triathlon if they knew the Brownlee brothers, and most people in the world of general sport would say, yes, those British guys. So well done to both of you. Before we chuck over to some learnings here, Jonny, I've just got to ask you mentioned there, before Rio, you did the best track session you'd ever done. What was that? It
was 800. Well, it's actually my coach, Malcolm Brown, has been a long-time coach of me. He's since retired. We were walking over to the track in Brazil, and he said, this might be our last ever pre-Olympic Games track session. And I remember thinking, okay, because you don't really think that it's so much in 4-year cycle. You always think about the next track, the next race. And I was a bit emotional after that. So I thought, right, let's make it a good one. And he likes to not tell us the track session until we're actually on the track. So we do our warm up, we do our strides. He likes to see us move properly, see if we're tired or stiff in certain areas, and then set the track session. But this one was 800, 500 as a set 3 times. Finished with 800. So 800, 500 with 100 metres in between the 800 and the 500, and then 200 metres after the 500. 3 times, and then 1 800 to finish off. So Malcolm quite likes, and our philosophy has always been short kind of track session between 4 and 6k to get the speed and get the good running going. So we finished on the last 800, and that's the one that I beat Alistair on.
Can you remember your split for that last 800?
Yeah, I ran a 202 or 203. I think it was a 202 or 203. I took it, and Alistair came past me about 500 metres, and I remember thinking, he's going to regret coming past me here. And he took about 100 metres, and I came back past him. And my training partner at the time, Gordon Benson, was watching it and was like, I think Jonny's going to win the sprint here. But came to the actual triathlon itself 10 days later, and obviously Alistair ran faster than me, so that's when it counts.
That's only because you said relax, right? And on the Rio, can you remember your power output on the bike? I mean, you guys absolutely drove that, and as you say, you possibly did more work than anyone on that bike.
Yeah, I didn't actually have a power meter on then. I do now. I wish I did then. I really wish I did. I do now because of training and that kind of thing. And it's good to race on now because it's always good to look at the power to make sure you can even to get aero and to make sure you're not working too hard. And but then I didn't actually have one on. So the only power data I've seen was from Ben Canute. I think he published like a article about it a few months later, and that's the only one I saw. And he was putting out some big power, and I don't know if he weighs more than me or whatever, but we must be an equivalent of it more than that. So it was just a very hard day, very hard first couple of laps. I'd absolutely love to know what the power was there, because I think the spikes at the hill would have been pretty big.
So there you have it, part one of this two-part featured performer episode featuring Jonny Brownlee.
My philosophy on all the kind of training overall is you choose what hard sessions you want to do in a week. So if you go cycling and running, I do a hard bike on a Thursday, and then a hard run on a Saturday morning and a Tuesday night. So they're your kind of protected sessions, and then you get as much aerobic sessions training as you can done around it as possible. As soon as you're getting tired for those sessions, you have to reduce your hours. So my tip for bike and run is to separate those sessions as much as you can. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is a good idea, and just make sure the quality stays in those sessions.
Now, until next week, be sure to jump over and follow Jonny on Instagram at Jonny Brownlee Try. You can also check out the great work of Jonathan and Alistair's foundation, the Brownlee Foundation, which has seen over 30,000 children complete their first triathlon. A huge thanks to the great folk who make this show possible: Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, and Matthew Walding on all things show graphic design. Of course, a massive shout out to today's show sponsor, Kinesis Performance Sunscreens, for your support. If you are looking for a great active sunscreen, you cannot go past Kinesis Sunscreens. So until next week, part two of this conversation with Jonny Brownlee, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.